Good evening, everybody. I welcome you to today's session of Roznama, the daily newspaper analysis. And without wasting further time, we'll quickly begin. Now, everybody must have gone through the newspaper till now. And today, the entire paper was only and only full of the historic European Union and India Free Trade Agreement. Now, before we get into the free trade agreement, let us just do a brief history of the European Union. Okay, now this entire European Union was ideated to be brought into existence after the Second World War came to an end, only to foster bonhomie amongst the entire European countries. Why? Because the countries, they were fighting amongst themselves for more and more territorial expansion. And as against this entire mad race for territorial expansion in Europe between Italy, Germany, Britain, France, etc., there were 50 states who had come together as the United States of America, and they actually were not fighting amongst themselves for any territorial expansion. So taking cue from this, unitedness of the United States of America, even the countries of Europe, they also thought of establishing such a bonhomie amongst themselves. All right. So from this idea, in 1946 came the vision of establishing a United States of Europe. This was furthered through the 1951 Treaty of Paris, which resulted in the establishment of the European Coal and Steel Community. Naturally, coal and steel back then being the basic raw materials for any war, for any defense mechanism. Why? Coal was the one thing that ran industries, and steel the raw materials for armaments. Then after this, in 1957, they established the European Economic Community through the Treaty of Rome, and this also resulted in the formation of Euratom. So Euratom is basically towards Europe and atom, which basically sought to foster a common nuclear cooperation mechanism. Then in 1965 was brought in the merger treaty, which unified the three organizations, that is the European Coal and Steel Community, the European Economic Community, and Euratom into a single administrative framework. Then in 1985 came the Shenzhen Agreement. So if any one of you have traveled to Europe, so you know that you need to have a Shenzhen visa. And when you take a Shenzhen visa, so the 27 countries which are a part of European Union, you can travel to these 27 countries on one visa. All right. And that visa is known as Shenzhen Agreement, which facilitates passport-free travel. Okay. Then 1986 came the Single European Act. This Single European Act sought to establish a single market. Then in 1992, through the Maastricht Treaty, the formal establishment of European Union was brought into existence. What did the European Union sought to bring about? A single market, a single currency, EU citizenship, and also common foreign and security policy. All right. From 1999 to 2002, we had the monetary union in Europe, which was brought into existence in the European Union through the introduction of euro as a common currency for all the countries who were part of the European Union. This also came to be known as Eurozone. Okay, so this was also a part of your current affairs a few days back, where the 21st country has joined Eurozone. Now you tell me in the comment box which country is the 21st country to join Eurozone. All right. Then 2007, we had the Lisbon Treaty, which further strengthened democratic governance in the European Union. And then since then, it has been expanding, and now it has a total of 27 member countries. All right. Then just a brief into the entire institutional structure of the European Union. Now the European Union has 7 organs or bodies. The first one is the European Council, headquartered in Belgium, and its head is Antonio Costa. Antonio Costa was the chief guest for the 77th Republic Day, and also he was here to sign this historic European Union Free Trade Agreement with India. Then we have the European Parliament, headquartered in Strasbourg and is headed by Roberta Metsola. European Council of the European Union, headquartered in Brussels. This particular organization, it has no individual head, and the member countries, they hold its presidencies for a period of 6 months via rotation. Then we have the European Commission, again headquartered in Brussels, and it is headed by Ursula von der Leyen, and she was also present for the 77th Republic Day celebrations as the chief guest in India. Then Court of Justice of the European Union, headquartered in Luxembourg, presently headed by Cohen Leonards. European Central Bank in Frankfurt. Frankfurt is also considered as the financial capital of Europe because major banking structures, institutions are set up in Frankfurt. It is headed by Christine Lagarde. And European Court of Auditors, headquartered in Luxembourg, head is Tony Murphy. Your homework for today is to read a little bit as to the basic functioning of all of these individual organs. Okay. Now moving to the major topics in news for today. Obviously, the mother of all deals, as it has been called by India and European Union. Now, this is a free trade agreement. Again, why was this sped up? Mostly because of USA's aggressive policy. All right, so do keep in mind, because of USA's aggressive policy, where what is US doing to get things done as per USA's own whims and fancies? USA keeps on threatening other countries with tariffs. All right, like today only there is one piece of news where US has also imposed tariffs on South Korea, because South Korea did not function as per some trade agreement that they had signed with USA. All right, so because USA keeps on threatening countries with tariffs, etc., all the countries, they are looking for alternative sources of trade, that they don't have to trade with US. And if they don't trade with US, naturally no tariffs or import export duties are going to be slapped on them. All right, so through his entire idea of making America great again, he is actually bringing so much of ruin to America in this sense, because countries, they are now shying away from having diplomatic or economic pacts with the United States of America. All right, now coming back to this, naturally it is a free trade agreement. Now, free trade agreement basically does not imply that the import and export between the two countries is going to be absolutely free. That is, no import or export duties are going to be implemented. It implies that it is not going to be free, but they are going to try to negotiate that as minimal amounts of trade duties are imposed, the better. All right, मतलब जितनी कम से कम import export duty हम लगाएं एक दूसरे के ट्रेड ऑफ गुड्स पर, उतना ज्यादा अच्छा हो दोनों कंट्रीज के लिए. Naturally, it does imply that there will be a certain percentage of goods, certain number of goods which will witness 0% taxation, but then there will be certain good categories which will have some minimal percentage of import export duties on them. All right, now this is what has been given in crux, which you have to keep in mind, and also it has been mentioned in all the newspapers. Please do keep in mind that that for the first time the trade talks between India and European Union began in 2007, then they were suspended in 2013, and then they re-began in 2022. All right, and since then they've been trying to negotiate, which has finally been negotiated and put on the tables in 2026. They've talked about that they are going to implement it this very year. They also have a comprehensive economic plan for 2020 for the next 5 years, from 2026 to 2030. All right, then it says that EU dropped tariffs on 99.5% of Indian exports to 27 European Union countries. That 99.5% export goods from India to European Union has been exempted from taxes. That is 0% taxes are to be put on them, and these goods which are actually exempted, they are the most labor intensive industries from India, like leather, like textiles, pharmaceuticals, etc. Labor intensive meaning that industries which provide maximum employment to the country. So naturally employment opportunities in the country are going to increase with this free trade agreement. Secondly, it is also going to increase export of goods from India to European Union, which is going to bring in more money in the country. So naturally, the economic growth of the country is going to get a major boost. All right. So it says that tariffs removes or cut on 90% of EU goods. All right. Now it is a free trade agreement between two countries. So European Union is also going to benefit. So how is European Union going to benefit? That 90% of European Union goods are going to come in India without tariffs. Wine duties that previously were 150% are now only 20 to 30%. And spirits, that is ethyl alcohol that is used in medicines, etc., is now only 40% on tax. Car tariffs have, that is luxury cars, are now reduced from 110% previously to only 10%. And similarly, tariffs are also eliminated on aircraft products, all right, and 0% tax on many machinery and pharmaceutical products. How does India benefit? India is going to now export duty-free goods such as leather, textile, gems, spices, which are mostly very, very labor-intensive in nature, easier for skilled Indian workers. Now, the two countries have also signed a pact for mobility. Mobility of Indians, can be students, can be skilled, can be semi-skilled, can be unskilled labor from India to the European Union countries. All right. Then carbon border tax, which is known as carbon border adjustment mechanism. All right. Now, this particular term or this particular mechanism was one major hurdle between the free trade agreement that has now culminated between India and the European Union. So what does carbon border adjustment mechanism actually mean? I'll take up in today's session when we come to the terminology bit. All right. Then quickly moving ahead, just keep in mind that India has gained tariff reductions across 97% of tariff lines, which covers 99.5% of trade value. All right. So majorly all labor intensive sectors like textile, apparel, leather, footwear, tea, coffee, spices, sports goods, toys, etc., they have been exempted. All right. Then we had consecutively many articles in the newspaper today on the India EU deal. So you can refer to various sources. This article is from the Hindu. This one is from the Indian Express, and they talk about the same thing, called as mother of all deals. India and European Union comprehensive strategic agenda has also been signed, like I told you, for a 5-year period. Please remember the name, India European Union comprehensive strategic agenda from 2026 till 2030. All right. Then again, another article from the Indian Express which talks about what are the goods that have been exempted. So here you all can see marine sector, chemical, leather, plastic and rubber, textile, gems and jewelry, base metals, etc., sports goods, toys, they're all now have 0% taxation or import duties in European Union. Okay. And for EU, motor vehicles previously had 110%, now only 10%. Wine previously 150%, now 20 to 30%. Beer from 110 to 50. Olive oil from 45% to 0% now. Fruits, Mediterranean fruits, specifically from France, kiwis, pears, etc., from 33 to 10%. All right. So a lot of rebate on import-export, which is going to facilitate better trade between the two countries. Again, the articles talk about automobiles, wine, and labor-intensive goods get a major boost. Mobility packs for Indian students, workers. So please keep these pointers in mind. Okay. Now coming to the next piece of news, the SIR has been in news for the past 1 year now. So again, the case is in the court, and there were petitions filed where they said that the SIR is illegal and it shouldn't be undertaken, etc. It should be the responsibility of the Election Commission of India to actually make sure that all the voters are included in the electoral rolls. So here the person or the lawyer who was representing the Election Commission of India in the Supreme Court, they've said that Article 326 provides for adult suffrage, where they also and along with Article 326, we also have the Representation of People's Act 1950, which provides for certain qualifications, disqualifications for a particular voter. The qualifications being that they must be 18 years of age, must be citizen of India, and also that they shouldn't be disqualified under any law of the country to be registered as a voter. All right. So because SIR was seen that a lot of non-citizens are being included, so the Election Commission has said that it must be we can only extend the right to vote to the citizens in the country. So naturally, if somebody who's not a citizen, they will be removed from the electoral roll. And they've also put a strong argument saying that we are not giving somebody citizenship of the country or not giving somebody citizenship of the country. That is the work of the government. We are only verifying it. And if somebody is not a citizen, then naturally we are not going to extend the right to vote to that particular person. Okay. Then without proof of qualification, no person can enter the electoral rolls. We are simply asking for qualifications. So if you are a citizen, you will be included in the electoral rolls. If you're not a citizen, then naturally the Election Commission can't do anything about it. So you can go through this article. It gives certain valid pointers on it. Then again, this particular article, there have been massive protests against the equity University Grants Commission's regulations on promoting equity in higher education institutions were brought in 2026, UCG equity rules of 2026. Under the rules, the Universities Grant Commission said that no student is going to be discriminated against or maybe bullied and anything under the college, university, and not only students, professors, teachers as well, that nobody can't be discriminated against in the university premises, campuses, etc. And they've specifically specified discrimination on the basis of caste, that strict action would be taken against if there is any discrimination on the basis of castes or class towards SC, ST, OBC community. So a lot of general category students in Lucknow, Indore, etc., they have protested, saying that this entire equity rules are actually very discriminatory towards the general category people, general category students, that no such protection is being provided to the general category students. All right. Now, because this entire protection talks in terms of equity, that equal protection on the basis of equity in the sense that it will be as per needs, will be should be provided to everybody. It shouldn't only be based on castes or class. Even harassment or ragging, etc., can be faced by general category students as well. So the general category students are saying that protection should be extended to them also under these protection rules of the UCG. And the education minister has come out and said that that everybody, no one will be subject to harassment and there will be no discrimination on the basis of caste, etc., not even for the general category people. So then again, we do have another judgment over it that is set to come, and the general category students, they took the entire case to the Supreme Court, where they've also called talked about reservation to SC, ST, OBC categories as well. Here they've said that under the promotion of equity in higher education institutions, they've called it, the general category students have called it discriminatory on grounds that it extends the benefit of reservation only to scheduled caste, scheduled tribes and members of backward community, while denying the same protection to general or upper castes. All right. So naturally, it is a provision of the constitution to provide reservation to people belonging to the backward class and castes. So that is why they've undertaken this particular protests. All right. Okay. Then another piece of news for today is that the BAFTA awards, the nominations have been announced. All right. Now, Oscars are given in the USA. BAFTA are given in the United Kingdom, all right? It is the British Academy Film Awards, and they have also only announced the nominations as of now. So a few days back, we had in news Sinners, which has bagged the maximum, maximum nominations ever for any movie, a total of 16. The same for BAFTA also. Sinners here also has bagged around 13 nominations. Yes, Sinners with 13 nominations. All right. So they have basically given their nominations. Best films, they have One Battle After Another, Hamnet, Marty Supreme, Sinners, Sentimental Values. For best directors, they have Paul Thomas Anderson, Ryan Coogler, Chloe Zhao. Best actors, they have Robert Amario, Timothy Chalamet, Leonardo DiCaprio, and similarly for best actresses also. So these are just nominations that have been announced as of now. Just keep an eye as to who's won what when the final results are declared. All right. Then coming to the editorial bit, quickly moving ahead. All right. Now the first one was manufacturing wars, where they've actually drawn to the the author here tries to draw attention that the government has this entire idea to install 500 gigawatt of fossil fuel capacity in the fossil fuel generated 500 gigawatt of non-fossil fuel generated energy by 2030 in the country. All right. And here the author is trying to say that the government, to undertake this, has launched this on along a scheme of production linked incentive. Okay. The production linked incentive simply implies that the government gives recognition to, or gives subsidies, tries to monetarily benefit those production units who are actually making profits, and जितना ज़्यादा production किसी particular company का होगा उतना ज़्यादा government benefit देगी उनको, ठीक है? But the problem here is that to undertake this non-fossil fuel energy generation, we need a lot of raw materials like photovoltaic cells, solar panels, wind generating turbines, etc., lithium ion batteries. And maximum of all these products, India is not manufacturing in the country. India is actually importing from outside. Just yesterday or day before yesterday, there was an editorial along similar lines, where we actually saw that majority of our non-fossil fuel generation capacity, like photovoltaic cells, etc., India imports from China. So we are not manufacturing it in India. So any particular manufacturing unit who's actually manufacturing non-fossil fuel energy, it has to import raw materials from outside countries. तो import में उस particular company का भी तो पैसा खर्चा हो रहा है, production cost उसकी high हो रही है, जिसके वजह से India में there is no basic growth of that particular company for the government to incentivize that company. All right. So this article simply says that our manufacturing capacity is very, very limited to gain any benefits from production linked incentive. So the government should actually not undertake production linked incentive, but the government should just give incentives to such manufacturing unit so that they can maximize their production and quickly help the government achieve this particular target. All right. So this article just shows you the basic shortcomings in the production linked incentive program and how the country is more dependent on the outside raw materials to generate non-fossil fuel energy in the country. So a good article, go through it. All right. Now this particular article talks about the solution to falling rupee. Falling rupee here implies that the value of money as compared to the US dollar, the euro and British pound sterling is continuously falling, which is naturally resulting in inflation in India and lack of confidence in the Indian currency. Okay. And this article simply says that in spite of whatever figures and facts that we get, that the GDP of the country is rising, India is the fourth largest economy of the world, and naturally our trade and naturally we number wise, numerically we are doing well, but overall the entire currency is actually falling. So this article says that this falling of monetary terms of the Indian currency is more due to our geopolitical scenario as of now. And this geopolitical scenario, the authors, they are trying to draw towards USA, that USA is imposing lots of tariffs on us. It's mentioned here, 10% initial base rate, then 25% of reciprocal tariffs, then 25% additional tariffs were imposed on India for buying Russian oil. And again, US has threatened that all countries who are undertaking trade with Iran, they will be slapped with another 25% tariff. So India, although has a meager of 0.15% of tariff, 0.15% of trade with Iran, but yet again we could be slapped with additional 25% tariffs. So because of so much of tariffs on India, the export can't, our export is suffering, because then not everybody is a government manufacturer. There are a lot of private manufacturers also, जो पहले में भी यूएस के यहाँ ज्यादा सामान हम पहुंचा रहे थे, बट क्योंकि अब ड्यूटीज टैरिफ्स इतने ज्यादा हो गए हैं, तो दैट पर्टिकुलर मैन्युफैक्चरर ही हैज टू पे exorbitant amount of money to send his produce to Europe, to USA. तो यूएसए में ज्यादा ट्रेड हम कर नहीं रहे हैं, एंड यूएसए वाज अ मेजर स्ट्रॉन्ग मार्केट फॉर इंडियन एक्सपोर्ट्स, तो वहां से हमारी इनकम सफर कर रही है। तो इसके वजह से लेस ऑफ एक्सपोर्ट नहीं हो रहा है, लेकिन इंपोर्ट हम उतना ही कर रहे हैं। तो आर इंपोर्ट इज एक्सपैंडिंग एंड एक्सपोर्ट इज लेसनिंग, ड्यू टू विच इंडिया इज रनिंग इनटू अ ट्रेड डेफिसिट। एंड ट्रेड डेफिसिट हो रहा है, मतलब अब ट्रेड डेफिसिट इज नाउ हिंडरिंग और lowering our currency, which is also resulting in inflation in the country. Then no negotiations, bringing any fruit with USA also. USA अलग से लगाते चले जा रहा है टैरिफ्स, और इंडिया और यूएस के बीच में कोई ऐसी बात नहीं हो रही है कि किसी भी तरह का नेगोशिएशन नहीं हो रहा है कि टैरिफ्स हट जाए हम पे, जिसकी वजह से हमारे यहाँ में भी थोड़े इन्वेस्टमेंट्स बढ़े और दूसरी चीज हमारे एक्सपोर्ट्स बढ़ पाए। ऑलराइट, so the article talks about that India is, the rupee is basically falling because of the entire disruption that USA has caused, because India has various trade relations with other countries. So right now, the solution to combat this falling rupee actually lies in diplomacy, that India must negotiate with USA to remove this entire barrier that has been imposed on India because of US tariffs. All right. So again, a good article, go through it. This is the basic crux of the article. Then coming to the next one, this article talks about the new labor codes. So the article is a wonderful article, and it talks about, shows you the advantage. What are the basic advantages of the new labor codes that have been brought into India, brought into the country, implemented in the country? So firstly, there are 4 labor codes which have now subsumed a total of 29 erstwhile laws that were in existence. And this entire article basically draws attention to the fact that how beneficial are these 4 labor codes going to be for India, that labor previously was, and how, what are the basic areas that they are going to look into, like simplifying compliance, universal minimum wages, expand social protection, modernize workplace regulation. Then also it says that labor is a concurrent list subject where both center and the states make laws, policies, programs. These 4 codes are going to be implemented in a uniform manner throughout the country. So again, interstate discrepancies नहीं होगी, तो अगर कोई लेबर एक जगह से दूसरे, एक स्टेट से दूसरे स्टेट जा रहा है, he will be under the governing ambit of the same labor code. All right. Then also it draws attention to the fact that India में labor से related या employment से related problem क्या है, यही कि जो हमारी working force है, जिसमें from 15 to 30 years minimum लोग काम करते हैं, maximum लोग 30 to 45 के bracket में हैं जो काम कर रहे हैं, जिसमें ज्यादा employment opportunities मिल रही हैं. Then it also draws attention that female are much less employed in the employment sphere, and also there are a lot of people who are gig workers. Gig workers, again, I will be taking up in the terminology sectors, but gig workers simply imply informal workers who work on a part-time basis, freelance basis. They don't have a basic offer letter and things like that. So these entire labor codes, they are going to give an entire structure to the workers in the country, provide them social security, provide them unemployment benefits, employment benefits, etc. Okay, so go through the article. Wonderful one. Okay, now this particular article is on the present civil war in the Syria region. The article basically talks about the present crisis in Syria, and the crisis dates back to around 10-15 years. Now, in Syria, there is a region known as the Kurdish region, and this particular region in Syria has about 10% Kurdish population, or Kurds live here, and they are demanding an autonomous state in this part of Syria. And the central government in Syria naturally does not want to give autonomy to the Kurds living in the region, and they want to have a centralized regime. So since 2011, the Kurds are fighting the centralized regime in Syria, due to which there is this massive civil war. Now, initially, the civil war was within the country only, and there are certain section of the Kurd population that is also in Turkey. So this entire crisis not only is limited to Syria, but also certain sections of it fall in Turkey as well. The article also gives you an idea as to what is Turkey's stand and what is USA's stand. So Turkey initially naturally did not support an entire coming into existence of a region which only included the Kurd population, that is Kurdistan. But because naturally they wanted separation of a particular territory from Turkey as well. USA, on the other hand, naturally is against Syria because of IS that works there, the Islamic State organization, which undertakes terrorist activities left, right, and center. So USA is never in support of IS, and the erstwhile Syrian government. USA was supporting the Kurdish separatism because they were not, as radical in their outlook, and they wanted autonomy. So it has a mix. The article talks of a mixed stance between the two countries. So you can go through the article. And right now, as of now, there is no peace treaty or agreement that has culminated between the Kurdish dreams of an autonomous state and the Syrian government. Although the central Syrian government did try to give certain recognition to the Kurdish population in terms of, their national language, offering citizenship to all Syrian Kurds, also declaring Nowruz and a New Year festival celebrated by the Kurds as a national holiday. They give all these concessions, the Syrian government, but they are not giving any formal, not giving them any sort of independence, and not conceding to the demand that maybe that entire region should be clubbed into one entire separate state of Kurdistan. Okay, so this is what the article talks about. All right, then coming to the next one, this particular piece of article in the Hindu talks about the present crisis in Venezuela. Now, the Trump regime forcefully removed the President Maduro from Venezuela, and then as of now, the present president that is there, the acting president, Delcy Rodriguez, she also is somehow critical of the Trump government, saying things like that the American president or the American government should not start dictating things to Venezuela. Let Venezuela be, and let Venezuela, enough already of Washington's orders over politicians in Venezuela, that they now want to take their own decisions. And also, this article simply says that although Donald Trump did give this entire reason of taking over of Venezuela because of Chinese expansion in the region, Chinese influences in the region, but the real and of the entire drug cartel and narco terrorism that was undertaken by the erstwhile president of Venezuela, the real reason is oil, that Venezuela has a lot of oil, the largest oil reserves in the world, and naturally Trump wants to tap the entire oil reserve. All right, it also draws attention to the Dundro Doctrine that has been given by Trump. So Dundro Doctrine I had explained a few days back in one of the sessions. So again, in the comments, I want you to tell me now what is the Dundro Doctrine. Okay, All right. Then this particular article, a very simple one, you can just go through it, that how the European Union Free Trade Agreement with India is going to impact the AI and the semiconductor technology. All right. So it simply says this entire AI and semiconductor has been brought into existence through the India-EU strategic partnership that was signed previously, which was till 2025. That was the first phase of it, where they basically talked about technology, cybersecurity, 5G networks, etc. Then the second phase began in 2022, where they talked about trade in technology, in terms of in strategic technology, in terms of AI and semiconductor innovations, etc. All right. And in the third phase in 2023, India and EU signed the Semiconductor Memorandum of Understanding, where they basically talked about resilience in the global chain supply mechanism. All right. So go through it. It's a good take in the article, just an extended part of the article. Okay. Then, okay. Now this particular article is in the Indian Express and again talks about the benefits of the European Union and India free trade agreement. All right. And why actually this entire agreement come into being, come into existence, and why was it sped up so quickly. So it draws a very good contrast to how it was actually the US president that pushed the entire agreement to take place so early, because he kept on slapping India with a lot of tariffs, kept on threatening to slap tariffs on the European Union. Naturally, both of them were looking for a way out from Europe, from the United States of America, and expand import and export with other countries. So that is what they actually did. Okay. All right. Then this article, again, you can go through it. It has been taken by us many times in the past 1 week, that the entire governor speech fiasco that was taking place in Tamil Nadu, Kerala, and Karnataka. So there were a lot of instances, specifically in Tamil Nadu, where the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu also had said that he is going to move a motion to bring about an amendment in the constitution, where this entire provision of the mandatory governor speech at the first session in the year of the legislative assembly should be done away with. All right. So this just gives you one insight into that. All right. Now quickly coming to news in brief. All right. Now, because this year the census is commencing, and the census is going to be a digital census. So they've just given you a briefing as to how the digital census is to be undertaken. So they've said that the people, they can self enumerate themselves through logging in into the one portal that has been outlined by the government, where you can actually undertake the census, where you can give in your data, take the digital census. So you have to self enumerate, the respondents have to self enumerate themselves on the portal, after which a reference ID will be generated, and then that ID has to be shared with the enumerator during the field visit. This reference ID, through which you will fill in your details and everything, and then there will be a person who will come to your house also. It is with that person that the respondent or us, we have to share the reference ID. After checking the self enumeration data, the enumerator will include it in the original database. Okay. And then they've also said that this entire portal service and everything will be available in 16 languages to facilitate easy enumeration. Okay. All right. Then, okay, I just wanted to flag this term of gig workers for you. So Kerala has constituted a gig worker, Karnataka, sorry, has constituted a gig workers welfare board. Don't need to know the piece of news, but gig workers, the term is important. So gig workers are basically those workers who work free as a freelancer, who don't have, any formal structure of job, do not have a very 9 to 5-ish job. They work on a temporary basis. They work aligning themselves with certain platforms like Zomato, Swiggy, etc., where they work. When they get work, nahi mil raha hai to nahi mil raha hai. There is no formal structure that they must and have to get work in so and so areas. All right. Then another term that I wanted to flag was doomsday. Doomsday meaning end of the world. Okay. So doomsday, just keep the term in mind, means the end of the world. There is a glacier known as the Thwaites Glacier in the Antarctica, which is known as Doomsday Glacier, because it is believed that because that glacier is melting at a very, very rapid pace, and it is believed that if the glacier melts entirely, it can result in about a 6 inches rise in the global sea level. Okay. Then another piece of news that Trump has called for hiking tariffs to South Korean goods to 25%. And why? Because Trump is accusing South Korea of not living up to an earlier trade pact struck with Washington. So you can see that he's actually doing things as per his own whims and fancies, does not care a grain about anybody or any country. Okay, कुछ भी नहीं होता है तो tariff मार दो बस सब पे. Okay, then only again I wanted to flag the term Hanta for you all. It is written as Janta, but it's pronounced as Hanta. And junta is actually a military government, all right, that when the legitimately elected government is removed and the control of the governance and administration in a particular country is taken over by the military, it is known as junta. Okay. And the last term I believe is CBAM, which is Cross Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. The full form is important, and this was one thing which was a major hindrance between the India-EU FTA agreement. So carbon border adjustment mechanism simply implies that European Union to root out dependence on fossil fuel based energy generation, or to reduce the carbon emissions in the country, started imposing higher tariffs or higher import duties on goods on production of which maximum carbon dioxide was released in the environment. तो कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड का जनरेशन इन द प्रोडक्शन ऑफ गुड्स तभी होता है जब हम बहुत ही अनसस्टेनेबल मैकेनिज्म्स यूज करते हैं. ठीक है, फॉर एग्जांपल अगर इंडिया कुछ भी प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है, फॉर एग्जांपल इफ इंडिया इज मे बी प्रोड्यूसिंग राइस, ठीक है, तो राइस या मे बी से राइस फ्लावर, ठीक है, तो राइस फ्लावर अगर प्रोड्यूस कर रहा है तो पहली चीज राइस ग्रो कर रहा है, राइस इज बीइंग ग्रोन थ्रू अ वेरी ट्रेडिशनल मेथड, जिसमें फ्लड इरिगेशन की ढेर सारा पानी भर देते हैं फील्ड में, जिसके वजह से देयर इज टू मच ऑफ वेस्टेज ऑफ वाटर, एंड वहां पर वेस्टेज ऑफ वाटर हो रहा है, कार्बन फुटप्रिंट इंक्रीज हो रहा है. फिर जिस फैक्ट्री में उस राइस को चर्न करके हम फ्लावर बना रहे हैं, दैट फैक्ट्री also uses energy based on fossil fuels and not non-fossil fuel based energy. तो अगेन ढेर सारा कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड एनवायरमेंट में जा रहा है. फिर जहां से वो जाकर क्या कहते हैं, वो राइस फ्लावर फैक्ट्री से पोर्ट तक जा रहा है, उसमें भी the vehicle is run on fossil fuels, it is not an electric vehicle etc. तो उसमें भी कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड रिलीज हो रही है. So the total amount of carbon dioxide is higher in amount as compared to something if it is produced using renewable sources. So carbon border adjustment mechanism simply sought to take up high tariffs on goods, the production of whom has released a lot of the production of which has released a lot of carbon dioxide in the एटमॉस्फेयर. ठीक है, तो कार्बन बॉर्डर एडजस्टमेंट मैकेनिज्म ये कहता है कि अगर किसी भी गुड को प्रोड्यूस करने में ढेर सारी कार्बन डाइऑक्साइड रिलीज हो रही हो, उस पर ज्यादा टैरिफ्स लगाएंगे. तो इंडिया के जो गुड्स हैं अभी थोड़े अनसस्टेनेबल तरीके से प्रोड्यूस होते हैं, जिसके वजह से हाई टैरिफ्स were being threatened or was a major problem, but then US thankfully pushed into a free trade agreement between India and EU quite quickly. Okay, so this was our daily newspaper analysis for you all today. I hope it was absolutely clear, and I hope the newspaper reading is now easy for you, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next one. Okay, thank you. Happy learning.